let's go through your experience. Especially, let's say you start publishing books and you're still publishing, and there's that passion as an author. So let's look at some of the highlights. So you mentioned a couple of books that are very important for you, and now you are as well doing fiction. I don't know if you want to highlight, because there's 14, 16, a couple of books that you have that you can go through them. So I'm not going, I mentioned a couple of them, and we're going to put as well your bio and information about you for people listening to us. But from your side would be let's say, one of the things I always I'll ask to love to ask is, okay, what is the heritage, or what do you think you want to leave for people listening to us about the author, Michael, and the things that really matter for you in terms of your narrative, in terms of your storytelling?
Well, I think that first and foremost is, if you're going to be an author, and I think as a public speaker as well, both roles are very similar. One is just long form, the other is short form. Speaking is short form, writing is long form. I think what's really important is that you be an observer of people, and I mean that with all my heart. I was skiing recently. I live in the Sierra Nevada mountains here in Nevada, and I was up in the mountain skiing, and a couple of guys sat down with me for lunch. People I didn't know. They're just sharing a table with me, and they asked me, as an author, what's the most important thing? And I stopped and I paused, and I realized for almost 30 minutes before I met these other men, I was just watching people. I was watching how they scratch their nose, and how they scold their kids, and how they laugh with their spouse, and how they sit down exhausted from spinning skiing, and how they interacted with the wait staff. And I just sat and watched people. And why that's important is, first off, you got to watch people with love in your heart, not with judgment, and just acknowledge both who you are and who they are, and then recognize the way they behave, because you're going to need that information to carry into a book. So how did they scratch their nose? How did they comb their hair? How did they laugh? How did they chastise their child? How did they, all of those things, it's all, to me, is all fodder. It's all great information to pull into your book. So sitting and observing people, noticing, maybe it's not your style, but one of the things that here in Northern Nevada, there's a lot of young people that have dreadlocks. That is certainly not my style. I wouldn't wear my hair in dreads, but I noticed as I watch them that they weave things into their hair, like little trinkets and ribbon and stuff like that. I notice how they dress, and I'm going to use that as a character. Okay. Generations, the newest generation, everybody's got a tattoo. I'm from the generation, I don't have a tattoo on my body, not one piece of ink on my body. I don't judge it, don't understand it, don't judge it. But on the other hand, it's a great way to bring that kind of character. The way people tattoo their bodies says a lot about what they think and who they are, and what they believe, and all of that is very great fodder for character development and how to engage people. If people don't see themselves in your book, you fail. They need to see themselves in there. Even if it's not something they would ever do, they still need to see themselves in the book. And that's what I'm trying to do. And you can only do that by observing people. People had asked me, have you written lately? And I said, well, kind of. I went down to the park and sat there and on a warm summer day, and I sipped on some water, and I just watched people go by, because that's kind of writing. And another thing is to, especially in our multicultural world that we live in, is really trying to understand different people from different parts of the world, and understand their accents and how they see things and what they do, and then share a little bit about your world, to get a sense of how you live. Those are all key things to make a great story. And in that, if you're writing a nonfiction book, you can weave all the stuff that you're trying to get across, the information, the great ideas that you have, your thought leadership, your business leadership. You can weave all that in there and teach people while telling a story. And that's going to be a book that people will read and proclaim. I like to point out the number one best-selling book, business book in the world is Patrick Lencioni's The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And most people don't read the subtitle, but it's a business fable. That's the subtitle. It's a business fable. Why is it a business fable? Because he wrote a fiction story about everything he knows about teams. And that's
very inspiring.
piece.
No, fantastic. And I think I love, well, you just said actually a storytelling. And that's what you said with your story of sitting in Nevada in a ski resort and listening to people and analyzing people. That's storytelling, and that's a great author. So thank you for sharing that. And it's a great masterclass in author and actually fiction and writing. And that's what is a writer, is actually someone that can actually captivate our imagination and get into a specific fact and take us out of reality and put us in something. So and that's what, it's part of your magic and part of the generosity that comes out of your writing and out of your work.